Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is August 16th, 2023. We are in the Old Testament. We are in the book of 1 Samuel. We're going to read chapter 1, verse 1 to 12 today. All right, so, we don't really know who wrote the book of Samuel. It was probably written somewhere around into David's reign that someone has gone back and they're going to write this history of how we get to David is essentially what we're going to see in Samuel. How do we get from the period of the judges to the period of the kings? Samuel being the last of the big judges, of the important judges, as we transition to a kingship. And then Samuel kind of becomes the role of a prophet. So we start to get to see that, a prophet and kings. Now we finished Judges a few weeks ago. We finished with Samson, and we said he kind of broke the mold of a judge where he was kind of focused on himself first and then was focused on God towards the end of his life with a big victory over the Philistines. And in his birth, we saw that an angel of the Lord, that we said was probably a figure of Christ, had come down and talked to his family, talked to his mother and father, and said, you know what, I want you to raise him as if he has taken the vow of a Nazarene, of a Nazarite. Excuse me. Some similarities with what we're going to see in Samuel, because there's no angel of the Lord coming to his mother, but his mother decides that she's going to dedicate him to God. Her upcoming son to God. It's going to be Samuel. In fact, she's going to go further. It's not just a vow of how he's going to live. She's actually going to take him to the temple and give him to the priest and say, here's my son. We dedicate him to the Lord. He is now your servant. He will do what you want. We set Ruth in here, and we said that was a very, that kind of contrasted that people were doing evil in the Lord's eyes. They were doing whatever they wanted. That Ruth, a Gentile, was living that obedient life, faithful to a God that she didn't really know to begin with. But by the time she's done, she's fully blessed, and in fact, her descendant is going to be David, who we're going to get to here. So she was very important to the story. Samuel's going to start with another woman. This time it's a Jewish woman named Hannah, who becomes the mother of Samuel. And again, we just talked a little bit about how she's going to vow that, hey, you know what, God, you bless me with a son, I'm going to give that son right back to you. So let's go ahead and we're going to read 1 Samuel chapter 1, 1 to 2:12. Now there was a certain man of Ramathaim, Zophim, of the mountains of Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zoph, an Ephraimite. And he had two wives. The name of one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. This man went up from his city early to worship and sacrifice to the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. Also the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, the priests of the Lord, were there. And whenever the time came for Elkanah to make an offering, he would give portions to Peninnah his wife and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah he would give a double portion, for he loved Hannah, although the Lord had closed her womb. And her rival also provoked her severely to make her miserable, because the Lord had closed her womb. So it was year by year, when she went up to the house of the Lord, that she provoked her. Therefore she wept and did not eat. Then Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Hannah, why do you weep? Why do you not eat? And why is your heart grieved? Am I not better to you than 10 sons? So Hannah arose after they had finished eating and drinking in Shiloh. Now Eli the priest was sitting on the seat by the doorpost of the tabernacle of the Lord, and she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed to the Lord, and wept in anguish. Then she made a vow, and said, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your maidservant, and remember me, and not forget your maidservant, but will give your maidservant a male child, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall come upon his head. And it happened, as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli watched her mouth. Now Hannah spoke in her heart, but only her lips moved. Her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she was drunk. So Eli said to her, How long will you be drunk? Put your wine away from you. But Hannah answered and said, No, my lord, I am a woman of sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor intoxicating drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. Do not consider your maidservant a wicked woman, for out of the abundance of my complaint and grief I have spoken until now. Then Eli answered and said, Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition which you have asked of him. And she said, Let your maidservant find favor in your sight. So the woman went her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. Then they rose early in the morning and worshipped before the Lord, and returned and came to their house at Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and the Lord remembered her. So it came to pass in the process of time that Hannah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Samuel, saying, Because I have asked for him from the Lord. Now the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer to the Lord the yearly sacrifice and his vow. But Hannah did not go up, for she said to her husband, Not until the child is weaned. Then I will take him, that he may appear before the Lord, and remain there forever. So Elkanah her husband said to her, Do what seems best to you. Wait until you have weaned him. Only let the Lord establish his word. Then the woman stayed and nursed her son until she had weaned him. Now when she had weaned him, she took him up with her with 3 bulls, 1 ephah of flour, and a skin of wine, and brought him to the house of the Lord in Shiloh, when the child was young. Then they slaughtered a bull and brought the child to Eli. She said, O my Lord, as your soul lives, my Lord, I am the woman who stood by you here, praying to the Lord. For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted me my petition which I asked of him. Therefore I also have lent him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he shall be lent to the Lord. So they worshipped the Lord there. And Hannah prayed and said, My heart rejoices in the Lord. My horn is exalted in the Lord. I smile at my enemies because I rejoice in your salvation. No one is holy like the Lord, for there is none beside you. Nor is there any rock like our God. Talk no more so very proudly. Let no arrogance come from your mouth, for the Lord is the God of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed. The bows of the mighty men are broken, and those who stumbled are girded with strength. Those who were full have hired themselves out for bread, and the hungry have ceased to hunger. Even the barren has borne 7, and she who has many children has become feeble. The Lord kills and makes alive. He brings down to the grave and brings up. The Lord makes poor and makes rich. He brings low and lifts up. He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the beggar from the ash heap, to set them among princes and make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he has set the world upon them. He will guard the feet of his saints, but the wicked shall be silent in darkness. For by strength no man shall prevail. The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken in pieces. From heaven he will thunder against them. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth. He will give strength to his king and exalt the horn of his anointed. Then Elkanah went to his house at Ramah, but the child ministered to the Lord before Eli the priest. May God bless the reading of his word. May God bless you. Bye. Oops, I guess we finished at 11. We'll save 12 till tomorrow.